All right, welcome back. You are watching To The Point. And of course, as I had mentioned earlier, tonight our conversation is about social media activism. We want to talk about the impact of social media activism. And of course, as always, we want to understand what this really means. Our guests are already in studio, of course, to help us really just talk about this and understand what really is the impact of social media activism in this day and age. Michael Idambo, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, just at the far end in the middle. And we have Joshua Marcia. Joshua is a social media influencer, as well as a very proud teacher, if I do say so, for him. And we have Kaikai Naipame. Kaikai is many things. She will tell us later on, but she is an economist. All right. Now on to the meaning of social media activism. According to Christina Newberry and Ashley Reid, social media activism is an online form of protest or advocacy for a cause. Josh, do you agree?
Thank you. Thank you for having me today here. We're talking about social media activism, and this is a topic that it is very timely to talk about, especially in our current era of politics. There's a lot that is going on, and it is very important for us to talk about social media activism. But first, it's also very important for us as a nation to acknowledge how far we have come as far as internet is concerned. I am looking at the internet penetration in Africa and how it is happening in Kenya and comparing it to other nations. Mm-hmm. I believe Kenya, we are at a very good state. And when we are talking about the activism, we are already seeing some of the things that have been happening through social media. And it is very important for us to actually acknowledge the fact that as much as we are fighting for our rights and all that, mm-hmm. it is also very important for us to acknowledge the fact that we are at a better place mm-hmm. compared to other places. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, Michael, do you agree with Christina and Ashley Reid that social media activism is a form of a protest?
Thank you very much, Anne, for hosting me today. And I'll say that indeed I do agree that it's an online form of protest. And I like to give the example of the George Floyd. When we had the issue of George Floyd, it is through social media activism that serious measures were able to be taken to protect the blacks, and the issue of the racism in the United States. The same thing happens in Kenya. When something is happening, we are quick to go to social media. Something is trending. Look at even the Ian Njoroge case. If it was not for social media, mm-hmm. not so many people have known about it. Mm-hmm. But I believe social media activism, with what has been happening in the last 1 week, it is more for a political cause. Mm-hmm. And this it comes to decision making, and it comes to issues of coming up with legislation. And I think that I do agree that is for a certain cause. Yeah.
All right, Michael, to what extent can this go to?
I would like to answer your question by stating that the Constitution of Kenya guarantees everyone the right to freedom of expression. But the same Constitution also does not guarantee that that right is absolute. That means as we enjoy the freedom of expression, we are not supposed to infringe other people's rights. For instance, there was a case where numbers of politicians were shared on social media platforms. You know, that's a private tool of an individual. Mm-hmm. And if I'm going to share your private information without your consent, mm-hmm. then it's an illegality in its sense, because you are now infringing on another person's right to privacy mm-hmm. as you exercise the freedom of expression. Mm-hmm. So I believe there are limits to this, and these limits include not sharing false information, cyberbullying, and also not sharing somebody's information without their consent, mm-hmm. because that in essence will limit other people's rights. But it's a good cause, only that we need to work on how best we can be able to push this information to our leaders if mm-hmm. you want to. And I believe other than the social media, we also need to have some offline action. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not just about trending every day. We also need offline action. we need the MPs to see that we are indeed serious about what we are doing. So that's all I can say.
All right, you've mentioned a very special point right there that I'll be getting into later on. That is about numbers of the members of parliament being shared on social media. But Kai, also want to get your opinion on this social media as a tool of protest.
I believe that social media is a tool of protest, or rather advocacy, because I got my first job when I was in second year because of what I was talking about. I was championing for some part of gender equality, leadership and governance for women. And someone saw like I was consistent, and they contacted me. And I used to get a salary of over 50,000 per month that I was a student for a course I was just talking about. And those times I was so scared of Twitter. So I used to post and I'm like, I'll be bullied, cyberbullying and stuff. So I believe that as long as you speak up your opinion without, going to the extreme ends, then social media is okay. And as the first speaker said, Kenya is very advanced on social media compared to the rest of 54 countries in Africa. And I would like to use TikTok as a course where they're using that space very well. If anyone speaks evil about Kenya or East Africa,
True.
Kenyans defend it by showing what is right and what is the face of Africa and Kenya in that contest. And I think that is important, that we have a right as Kenyans to say whatever we want to say about our government or our country, but no one has the right as an outsider to speak on our behalf. And I think Kenyans on TikTok have really played a very major role of, attracting more foreigners coming. I see so many people saying on TikTok, I saw how Kenyans show the good side of Africa, and I've decided to take a tour to Kenya, to East Africa, and that is amazing. And I believe like also those on Twitter is more political, of course, should also display their political in both ways. You can't just always saying the politic side that is bad. It can be bad every day. So you display like this finance bill issue. I remember today I asked people yesterday, you should say which part is good and which is bad. You can't say entirely the finance bill is all evil.
Yeah, we'll be getting to that, Kai, later on. But Josh, don't you think that, as Kai is saying, that we have the freedom of saying whatever we want, however we want it, don't you think that sometimes that as Kenyans we take this a little bit too far? Yeah,
I will tend to agree with that. Sometimes we forget the limits that people are supposed to have. And like Chris said, at times we are doing things without guide. We're more of guerrilla warfare, like we're just attacking, no stopping until you get the results. And Kai mentioned something to do with TikTok, Twitter, diversities and all that. But I believe Twitter plays the role of opposition in our current government. So we are doing the Lord's work. So please let's do the Lord's work. Because I believe, when I look at the opposition, they currently, do we even have an opposition? I'm not sure we do. Because the person that you're expecting them to be the opposition, the likes of Kalonzo, is nowhere to be seen talking about this. Oh, well, they did a press conference the other day, but the kind of, the vigor, the aggressiveness that we need to see from the opposition doesn't exist anymore. And that is why you realize that trips now, especially those that are on Twitter or the most social media users right now, they are so angry at everyone because while we are expecting things to happen, we are expecting our government to work for us, but it is not. They are continuing to impose many taxes on us. And myself as a teacher, my salary, my payslip is just so bad. In fact, I don't like to look at it. Since last year, I have not been looking at it because you look at the deductions and all that sort of things, and then it demotivates you and it makes you not feel excited for the job. Right. So for you to avoid such a thing, you have to fight. And that is sometimes I tend to understand trips. Because why then do we have to give you some peace if at all we don't have peace on the ground? Let us all share that feeling of not having peace at all. So if you're imposing taxes on us, And you may not feel that. In fact, I want to believe that the president may not actually feel what Kenyans are going through. Because the president probably is all over. He's flying every day. The standard media are calling him all sort of names and all that.
Michael, do you agree? Do you agree with Josh that maybe Twitter is an opposition of the country?
Thank you very much, Anne. You can only answer that question if you're always on Twitter. But remember, we have so many social media platforms, and some prefer some other platforms, let's say Facebook, to Twitter. I'll say the middle class tends to use Twitter to push their information. When you look at TikTok, it's more of the younger age that uses the TikTok side, but I am not sure. I'm not sure if it's for a political cause. But I'll say Twitter and Facebook have been one of the two social media sites which have really pushed for revolutions. And I'll give an example of the Arab Spring. The Arab Spring, it is through Facebook and Twitter that people are able to share their concerns about the government. If you look at also the case of Libya, the government shut down TV stations, but people will only find out what is going on in Libya through social media. So I believe for us, as much as we say that Twitter is the opposition, the question is opposition to what? Because if we want to air our concerns to the government and to the people in power, we first need to understand, are we really getting, is this information getting to these people through Twitter? And if it is not getting through Twitter, what other forms of dissemination of information can we use? And that's why, as I stated earlier, I believe we should, the Twitter itself should also be backed up by offline action. And this means that as much as we are on Twitter, we want to call it an opposition, let also be out there and people and the government, the parliamentarians to see that indeed we are serious about what we have been talking about in Twitter. If the finance bill, I've seen that people have been calling for a demonstration on Tuesday. If we are serious about rejecting the finance bill, either a certain clause on its entirety, then we need to back up and that by offline action. So generally, that's what I would think about Twitter and the social media.
All right, Kai, before we get into some of the controversial clauses in the Finance Bill 2024-2025, Twitter as an opposition, do you agree? Or what is your take on what Josh just said?
For me, Twitter is a space that both sides give instant information of what they're doing and what they plan to do. Because you notice like mainstream media houses, sometimes they pick it from there. Sometimes you find like maybe someone senior in government, be it on opposition or on the other side, just posted like, oh, we've done this and this and this. Before they got the whole article to give to mainstream media, they've already said and highlight on Twitter. So for me, I feel like Twitter is the instant information center for both political, entertainment, business. You just go for what you're interested in at a particular space. So I can't really call it like an opposition space, but at this particular time, at this particular point in Kenya, whereby the finance bill is being talked about and the proposed budget, it's where most Kenyans are expressing their opinions. And yeah, some have a point, some are just saying no. So you're wondering, why are you saying no? You should have a reason why you're saying no to something. You can't just wake up and say, because Josh said no, I say no. So yeah, at this point, the Kenyans are using it to express their feelings, but also Kenyans forget a lot in a very short time. After a trend disappears, they go next. So sometimes I feel like even if they are holding this opinion of like, we saying no, I don't think they really mean it, because some of them are just saying no because some accounts which they believe in said no. So if it was from internal point of view, they will not care whether the trend is out. Because I noticed like the conversation of saying no to 2024 started going up when the hashtag got top 5. But before it appeared in top 20, it was only specific accounts which are talking about. So all of a sudden, everyone is talking about it because, I don't know, because it's trending and I don't know.
Well, that is the point of activism. It starts with one person, and then it grows to other people. So I believe it's true. Whatever Kaikai is saying is true, that we started from maybe from one person and then other people joined in. It's true for sure, because one person has to start with an idea and then the others have to join in. You all can be having one or a similar idea. So at least be divergent in ideas. But once your idea is good, then go for it. Please speak it out. And I think Kenyans sat down and they started seeing the discussion around the finance bill, the things that are going to be imposed, the new taxations. And I think that is what angered majority of them. Actually, one thing that I applaud Kenyans for this, especially the current discussion about finance bill, we've had all hands on deck, literally. I'm talking about TikTok. We started, actually, this whole campaign started on Twitter, and people were like, is it going to go far? And then all of a sudden realized we're literally doing this all alone. There are no other, social media platforms that people are talking about it. So we started involving TikTokers and asking them, you guys, you cannot be talking about, nipe likes, weka lions, something like that. So please join us in this conversation. And actually, they all joined in. I saw another post about this saying no to finance bill. A tweet saying that it has been posted by 38,000 people on Instagram. What does that tell all of us? That revolution comes with one person, and if it's for a good cause, all of the people are going to join in. On Tuesday, people are planning for protest. Remember, these protests have not been called by a politician at all. No politician has called them. It's just, he talks of materializing our campaigns. And on Tuesday, that will be the material day. We are materializing the campaigns on Tuesday by going to getting into the parliament. And I believe this should be sending a signal to all our leaders that you are tired. And someone said, iko siku vijana wataungana. That might be the moment. This might be the moment. So they should be very afraid of that.
And also, just to add, there's the issue of we are rejecting the finance bill. That has been the hashtag. But have we read the finance bill?
Right. That's a whole
That's the question. And I believe, as much as it is trending on Twitter, the question that we need to ask ourselves is, what are we rejecting?
Exactly.
If we are rejecting the motor vehicle, if we are rejecting the Section 8, Section 9 of that finance bill, or a certain clause, we should be able to speak out and say why, because the government wants to hear our views. And remember, when it comes to public participation, the government does not have to really to consider your views. It just wants to, it gives the government a chance to maybe consider or make a certain decision that it would not have made had those views not been given to them. So as much as we are rejecting that finance bill on TikTok and Instagram, what really are we rejecting?
Right.
Yeah, that's the question we need to ask ourselves.
All right, what really are we rejecting is the question. Of course, we have a controversial clauses in the Finance Bill 2024-2025, which we will be talking about after this short break.
Kila kiongozi ana hadithi yake ya kipekee.
Wazazi wangu walikuwa bit strict kwa sababu mamangu mwenyewe, mimi kutoka kuzaliwa sijailala nje.
The white small one, huyo ana sniff gunpowder na risasi na bomb. Alafu huyo mwingine ni Ridgeback ana sniff simba.
Even the employees knows that, so when in the boardroom is the chairman, the CEO, and the rest of. At what point are you a wife? The minute you get to that inside that door, you become now the wife.
Na kila maamuzi wanayoyafanya hufichua mengi kuhusu utu wao na uongozi wao.
We see God blessing us, and we now realize the power of giving also has to be rewarded back.
Kupitia kipindi Mfahamu Kiongozi, tunakuletea mahojiano ya kusisimua na uchambuzi wa kina kuhusu viongozi wetu.
Pick your core business as the bigger stones. Put them in your diary first. Give priority the bigger things.
Usikose kila Alhamis saa 1:30 jioni.
In a world where challenges are as common as opportunities, there are those who dare to defy the odds. They are the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting a business, it's about embracing uncertainty, pushing boundaries, and turning dreams into reality.
Hata ambao ni pesa ya kusave, wallahi. Ambao mwaka ni pesa nyingi sana.
As long as you're earning something, there's always that opportunity to save. And you start with where you are.
The way we run the business is in a very unforgiving way, where every team member has to bring out their best.
So, to all the dreamers, innovators, and risk takers out there, remember, being an entrepreneur isn't just a job, it's a way of life. Join the journey. Become an entrepreneur. The Grind, Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
All right, welcome back. You're watching To The Point. Tonight, our conversation is about the impact of social media activism, and we are trying to understand the key clauses that have sparked public outcry, the key clauses in the Finance Bill, of course, 2024-2025. What are they and how might they affect you? Now, on to our very first is taxes on bread. That is the introduction of the 16% VAT on bread. Remember that this is a staple in Kenya. Kai, I want to start with you from an economist perspective. What do you think of this?
So initially, that tax was there. And the argument of the Ministry of Treasury was that according to statistics they have done in the country, the poorest people in the country that they thought like they're subsidizing bread and milk for them, they actually don't use it, which is true. In the village, people rarely eat bread. But it's the middle class who consume bread the most and the first class people. So initially that was the argument. But immediately when they released the document, the first cabinet sitting they had, the president ruled it out in an executive order that taxes on bread, basic commodity, should be removed. So that one is already removed from an executive order. So it is not there anymore. But the reasoning why they raised it initially was that subsidies is supposed to support the poorest people, not middle class or first class. So once they realized that they're putting millions of money to subsidize something for people who can afford it, they were like, instead of that, let these people, they can afford to pay the 10 bob, an additional 10 shillings. But then the president felt like it's still a basic commodity, irrespective of which class. That's why he ruled it out. But if it was to pass through, I would support it, because if we can add 10 shilling to afford to raise 1 million that we can use to build a bridge or build a tarmac road in my rural area, I wouldn't have an issue, because Quiver Launch has opened over 10 branches in Nairobi as we speak within 7 months. And you know, every day that club is full. Alcohol that people buy is not for 10 bob, it's for 10,000, 8,000. So if we can afford to pay for our luxury, for just entertainment, that amount of money, why is it so hard for us to pay 10 shillings extra?
But should it be at the, do you think it should be at the expense of the common mwananchi, Kai?
I think it should be at the expense of mwananchi who can afford it. But thanks to God, executive order has ruled out.
To the mwananchi who can afford it, you understand that this is not only to the mwananchi who can afford it, it's for every Kenyan.
Yeah, it's for every Kenyan, but the statistics, as I said, Treasury make decision based on statistics, because they do treasury and planning. So they go across the country, collect ideas, ask citizens, and observe. Statistics doesn't always have to conversation. You can also observe, and then you make conclusion. So from that observation and from rural shops, they found out that most people that they put in the bracket, quote unquote, living below $1 per day, they really don't consume bread. And the reason for subsidizing bread and milk was for those people living below the poverty line to afford it.
But Josh, just a question for you before you interject. Kaka is saying only the middle class take bread. Don't you think that the poor people, like she's saying, don't take bread because they don't have the capacity and capability to take bread? Don't you think so?
I do agree that the poor people actually consume bread. I believe I teach in a rural area, and I see them buying breads occasionally. So we cannot really say and rule out that it's just the middle class that are buying the bread. And Kaikai mentioned something, that if we can save that 10 shillings and let it probably be put, maybe we can get 1 million, something like 1 million, so that we can maybe build bridges. But now that's where the problem is. Do we see the bridges being built? We have given a lot of money, by the way, since the current regime got into power. But what have we done? What have we received from them? By the way, Kenyans have no problem giving anything. They have no problem, giving taxes and all that. They only have a problem with how you spend the money. We do not see the money being spent. We can only see them buying new choppers every day. They are driving the new, Land Cruisers with the new number plates. That is all we can see. But when Kipchumba Murkomen keeps on asking for 700 billion, anything with figure 7. But can you see any road that actually been renovated so far, or a new bridge that has been constructed, apart from the JKIA new wing terminal that is being constructed, which has probably taken a lot of time, and Larry Mado keeps on mentioning that probably is still leaking. But what have we done with the money that we have already collected so far? We have no problem, even when you tax maybe that bread with 10 shillings, but can we see how you're spending that money? We would give any amount of money, but can we see how you spend it?
Michael, do you agree that maybe, for instance, in your area, you cannot see how your taxes are being utilized?
That is true, Anne. Actually, I've traveled Kenya since the start of this year, and I've struggled to see Kenha telling us road closed, construction ongoing. It's really been a struggle, and you ask ourselves, as much as we want to raise money through taxes, what is the common mwananchi getting? And if we have put the money we are raising in the right places, I don't think people will be rejecting anything. But the struggle now is, what is that money going to do? If we are going to tax, to lay taxes on bread, for instance, the question now is, what is the solution for? You should be telling us we are putting taxes on bread, but the common mwananchi, or this person who does not eat bread, is going to eat nduma, for instance, and we are not going to maybe look at the nduma, or we are going to improve the farming in the rural areas. But I believe the development has been very slow. Generally, and other than the Jomo Kenyatta terminal, I don't think the construction has been there. But if we pump this money in the right places, that really will be helpful. And in a recent interview by a Strathmore professor, he said that it took them 700 million to build Strathmore, to build a certain school in Strathmore, but the vice president needs 1 billion to renovate his house. So do we have misplaced priorities, or why really are we raising these funds? Is it for the right reasons? That's the question that every mwananchi is asking.
Kaikai, do you agree we have misplaced priorities?
I agree that there is an issue of management of public funds. Even the president said that, like, he wants people to be on deck. But I also blame us as citizens. Because when ODPP summons someone from your region, all of a sudden on Twitter, everyone is saying, mnatuonea, mtu wetu. Why wouldn't you stand with the government and say, yes, he stole the money, irrespective of him being from a tribe, from a village, he stole public fund or he mismanaged it, he or she. So let the due process follow. So the issue that we have as a country is that we talk about wanting transparency and accountability, but when the real work is done, we go to our cocoons of tribal politics and tribal defense, which is what has held us back for long. Because ever since I became an adult and understood little about politics, I have always seen that even people that even in the communities like, hey, this guy has gotten rich so fast. That day that ODPP or DCI summons them, that is the day you understand that Kenyans really don't mean what they say. You all of a sudden see people from their community holding press conferences from all local radio stations, and they can even manage to raise money to call mainstream medias to the village and say, we want a person to be released. Why? So the problem is not only the government is doing their best they could, but also as Kenyans, we are also doing our worst we could in terms of defending the wrong. So if someone has done the wrong, we shouldn't come out and say, for example, I'm just giving an example. If my uncle is holding a public position and steals 100 million, he didn't even tell us. But all of a sudden we see he has changed his lifestyle, he has taken his kids abroad. And we say, fine, maybe it's the benefits. But then DCI summons him one day. Do you know the first person? I'll be the first person to mobilize people and say, you are a relative, our in-laws. You have married so-and-so. We all of a sudden, you are Maasai, come. And then we go to DC and say, release him. Why? We should stand firm and say no to corruption, irrespective of who that person is. Whether your husband, your brother, your sister, then that is when we'll move forward.
I'd agree with you, but then there's a problem when only law is applying to one side of, if the current regime speaks of let's go for the corrupt individuals, but then you are starting from the opposition. Can you start from within your own house? I'm sorry, it's okay to start from the opposition, but again, why are you not, it looks like it's a political witch hunt, or you are doing it for the sake of, why would you, focus on an individual? I would not call it a less of a sin, but you have people surrounding you, people that have issues of corruption. They are all over being seen with all sorts of bad things that people wouldn't even want to talk about. But then why can't you even start with those ones? It would be better if you picked up an individual from your camp and then pick another one from that other camp. So you cannot talk, because I've also picked from my camp. But not only when you are picking from that other side and then you are leaving your own house, that is what brews a conflict. And that's why people will start, campaigns and, my people. Start with your own people as well. Show the leadership from your home, then spread it out here. We will be having no problem.
But that's not true, because you remember the education issue. Who are people being started? People working from government. They didn't start from private sector, as you say. It was from ministry number one that the ODPP already has full information. You can't also just go for someone. There is allegation, then the name, they start investigating. Once the investigation is finished, those departments that they're still going on, but you have seen already there are people who are being summoned. Some are supervisors, some are managers, some are startups. They just join public service. So I don't think there is anything like opposition or per se, because the ODPP are not political at all. They just start with what information they already have that they believe this one can bring this person to accountability.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will be getting into that conversation of who is wrong, who is not, but charity actually just begins at home, as Josh is saying. Kaikai, I don't know if you'd agree also, Michael.
I agree.
But let's also take a look at another, taxes on diapers, for instance. Now, this will also just increase the prices of diapers for children and adults, and also burdening maybe caregivers and parents. Michael, what do you make of that? Diapers. We have sanitary towels. What do you make of it?
And I think as somebody who has been on the forefront with the donation of sanitary pads to in areas where in Kenya where girls cannot access the sanitary pads, it's really saddening to see that we are even discussing about taxes on VAT on diapers. I thought by this time we'll be discussing about issuance of free sanitary pads to every girl in every school.
Right.
And I think the conversation should not be about taxing that, the conversation should not be about we'll make money because they're using it oftenly. The conversation should be about, have we done our research? Do we know how many people use diapers? Have we gone to Turkana and found out that children actually use these diapers? Because I feel when I look at the taxes on diapers, it's more of targeting the middle class, because the government has more of us come to a realization that the money is here in between. Let's not look at the people in the lower class, let's just target the middle class. And as much as we are looking at the middle class, let us also think about the lower class. Those people in Turkana, how are they going to benefit from the taxes on diapers, So I think it's a conversation about has research really been done by the cabinet for them to come up with this proposal? Have they gone to Turkana? Have they gone to Lodwar? Have they gone to to those places in Kajiado where people even don't know what a sanitary towel is, for instance? So that's the question that we really need to ask ourselves as Kenyans.
Josh,
thankfully,
today is Father's Day.
Yes.
Maybe you are a father, maybe you are a potential father. And you have sisters, maybe. You have a mother, you have friends. An increase in the price or tax on diapers, maybe sanitary towels. What do you make of this?
Well, you'd be surprised that actually touches me directly, because surprisingly, all of us, the three of us here, probably have been running or maybe helped donate sanitary towels. Yeah, and you know, as a teacher to begin with, these are problems that we are facing in schools. Students would come with, I'm a boarding master, by the way, and I'm in charge of the boys, and there's a teacher who's in charge of the girls. But then we collect ideas together. So she tells me, Mwalimu, I have a problem. My girls are complaining. They do not have the pads. So do you have something small that maybe you can give, maybe we can buy for them? Now, you actually know that teachers do this every day. They keep on giving their money to the students or maybe to buy the sanitary towels. I imagine a student coming to school with just one piece, like just the collection. That cannot last them a term. Now, what happens in the middle of it all? What happens, and now, you see, the reason they are coming to school without enough pads is because they do not have enough money to do the shopping. Now, the taxation being added on the sanitary towels sends a very bad signal. And honestly, in fact, I was thinking that the sanitary towels should be, like he's saying, should be free. I mean, honestly, why are we even charging them to begin with? Now, when we come to diapers, what do you want babies to use? Now you're going back to nappies or something, or using the trips are making very funny jokes around all that thing. Right. But it's very important for us to know as a nation that we're not doing the right thing by increasing taxes of things like sanitary towels and diapers. Very important for us to do away with that.
All right, Kaikai, in a country where sanitary towels is especially so hard to access for, of course, the women, the young girls in marginalized communities, what do you make of taxes on diapers and sanitary towels?
So let me talk as a participant and a consumer of both the products. I have over 18 nieces and nephews. Some are old, some are little. So if I visit my siblings, I have to buy a diaper at least for support. So the major reason for increasing taxes on diapers is to push Kenyans to be innovative so that they can come up with reusable diapers. As you know, the reason behind it is not actually just collecting money. The reason behind it is to push manufacturers to produce reusable diapers, because you know, the president is the champion for climate change and conservation of the environment. It will be absurd that he cannot bring changes in things that pollute the environment. We all know diapers cannot degrade in the soil. And once they are dumped, they will always be there, unless when kids go and play in those dirty places, they start tearing it apart. So that is the major reason, is to push manufacturers to be innovative so that they produce reusable diapers. Then for the pads, now that is where we have National Government Affirmative Action Fund under Women Rep. It's called NGAF. The issue of why kids in school are not getting pads is where now I said that we just focus on national government so much without asking, what is your local leader doing? Because I remember when devolution came, I was in high school, and the women rep for that specific county, I studied in Nyamira County in Sironga Girls National School. We used to receive 5 packages of pads every opening day of school, whether you need it or not, because the women rep was using the NGAF fund to do the right work, because it's meant for that purpose. And that is the reason why women rep position was meant to take care of issues of girls and women majorly, but not at entirety. They can also take care of other development things. So I feel like women rep has really failed girl child in this country, because they're taking all this money, have fancy lifestyle, and as Mwalimu said, the little they're getting is what they're using to supplement for kids. So at this point, I'm calling all Kenyans who are saying, oh, our girls don't have pads. Go ask your women rep, where is she taking the money meant to buy for local primary and secondary schools for pads for kids, because they're given that money. And then on matters of pad, there's a Kenyan innovative company run by my friend Ecobana. You know, they won the innovation for pad in US and they got funds. They are doing the production of reusable pads using banana leaves. So you can use the pad and still reuse it. It's a whole process. They're yet to do mass production soon. And then I think we are going to push every women rep to buy those pads to these kids who really need it, because they can use it for twice or thrice. And then if they are dumped, they degrade because they come from plants.
Kaikai, you understand that not all children have the luxury of maybe going to school. And when you were saying, for instance, this reusing of pads that are right now being made, how are they going to get access of this reusable pads if they don't even get the luxury of being in schools to also get access to their women reps?
Yeah, and that's the point we're calling women rep for accountability, because out of the 100 million they're given, there is a share for them to provide for women and girls, whether they're in the rural areas or urban areas, things like free pads. But have they really do that? For the last, how many years of devolution? 14 years. I think out of the women rep we've had in these 4 elections since new constitution, out of them, less than 5% have really done their job. And I think the first women rep for Nyamira, I'll give her her flowers. She did the job. I received those pads and I used to take them back to the village and donate to those who can't afford. And they were nice, by the way. People used to say, oh, they're too big. But because I think that time, the Ururuto thing, they did some contract to a specific producer for pads to women rep, but they cut off the money. So they were not given the funds, they were given the pads, and that is why I think it was possible. Then all of a sudden, I think women rep complains and like, oh, you take us less, why are you controlling us? Then they have started eating the money up to date. Even my own women rep, I have never seen it. My mom usually calls me and like, in this local secondary school, we need money for pads and stuff. So we just contribute, as Malimu said, do a charity work. But that is the work of Affirmative Action Fund.
Well, finally, on that, before we go on to the next, how about the adults? That adult who has completed school, has no job, hana jinsi ya kupata pads or even diapers.
Yeah. So I'm going to say this, whether it's a right platform or no. I have always said, or rather we've always pushed as women, and I think Kenya is not really listening to us. The same way they have made condom free. They are in all public toilets and stuff. We didn't make nature to make us bleed every month. Every government in Africa should actually make pads free and available at every station. Because it's so embarrassing that a pad is 180 bob, 8 pieces pad, and it is a cause of nature. No one woke up and like made themselves be women. So it should be made free the same way HIV pills are made free, the same way condoms are made free. So that is what I can say about it.
All right. Of course, there are a lot of controversial clauses. We have the VAT on banking. We do have motor vehicle tax. We do have eco levy, telephone and internet tax. But now on to, because time is not on our side, gentlemen and lady, what do you intend to achieve with your hashtag, that is the Reject Finance Bill 2024? Josh.
Well, thanks. First of all, we are creating awareness. It's very important to spread this message. We started with saying that there is no civic education. People do not know really what's happening on the ground. And the MPs that maybe you are expecting them to give you a report of the finance bill, they are not doing their job. They are coming to embarrass themselves on national televisions because they have no idea or even the content of the finance bill. But we are using now the social media to create awareness so that people can actually know what are the content of the social, the media, the finance bill. So we are using the social media first to create that awareness. It's very important. And that awareness is actually what is going to brew or build up to revolution. And once these MPs and our leaders have noticed that we are not joking around it, I think they might want to start taking us serious. And I believe with the hashtags and all that, we also have the protest on Tuesdays, and I actually want to believe that it will be going to be a very peaceful protest. There's no one who is ready to vandalize anyone's property. Everyone is just ready to be listened to. If only the leaders can actually realize that we are not doing this for our own. We are doing this because we love our nation. I'm a teacher, and sometimes I post because I feel bad. Why am I teaching students that I do not know their future? I'm not certain of their future. Sometimes I even talk and I get very emotional when I talk about it, because I need to talk to students with a promise that there's a future for them. And the reason why we are doing this, we are not doing this because we are being self-centered or maybe egocentric. We are doing this because we want the best for our nation. Only our leaders should realize it, that we are doing this not because we want to make them exposed or doing their businesses or anything like that. We are doing this because we love our nation, and we are going to be held accountable in few years from now. Our generation, the Alpha generation, Gen Z, they are going to ask questions. What did you do when this was happening? This is the time, and this is what we are doing.
All right, Michael, sorry, Josh, for that. Michael, what is your take, and what do you intend to achieve with this hashtag Reject Finance Bill 2024? Are you in support of it, by the way?
What I'll say is I'm in support of some of the clauses, and I don't support some of the clauses in the act. It's a bit lame to blame the whole act and say reject the whole bill, because that means you've not read the whole bill. And people have been targeting the motor vehicle tax and the tax on diapers because the media has been telling them that this is what the government is going to tax. I think as Kenyans, we also have we should also take that opportunity and read through this legislation. And I believe the government has a role to ensure that we can access these materials. And I was telling my colleague here that if public participation is only done in KICC, that's also something that we'll ask ourselves. Somebody in Bungoma will have to travel to KICC to give his expertise on the finance bill. Will somebody in Lodwar or somebody in Kitale have to travel to Nairobi? You know, so I think generally let Kenyans take time, and government gave us only 2 weeks for public participation. I think we need to do more in terms of public participation. It was an issue in the BBI, in the BBI case, but we need to do more. And as much as we are on social media, let's also have some offline action by responding, giving reports to the National Assembly. I think that will also help.
All right, the gentlemen have eaten into Kaikai's time, but I understand you are against the hashtag, the Reject Finance Bill 2024, and we would love to hear about that, but time is not on our side. So that's it for To The Point this Sunday. Thank you so much, gentlemen and a lady, for making time for us tonight. Thank you so much for staying with us. My name is Anne Odida. Have a wonderful night and see you next time.